And welcome to Mana Drain. This is episode 32. I'm Joe. This is my 7-year-old son, Eli. How are you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good. That's good to hear. You know what we're talking about today?
5 of our favorite cards.
5 of our top 5 creatures of the new set that's coming out. The pre-release is this coming weekend, Rivals of Ixalan. We're pretty excited, right?
Yeah.
You're pretty excited?
Mm-hmm.
This is the second set in the Dinosaur, Pirates, Vampire, Merfolk series. And Eli's right. We're going to be breaking down our top 5 lists. And then I've also got a few decks here to kind of help you guys in your limited play. So like when you go to your pre-release and stuff like that, there's a couple there's 4 main tribes, the ones that we just talked about, the Vampires, Merfolk, Dinosaurs, and the Pirates. We've got what color they're in, kind of a little bit of a breakdown. We'll go over, what each tribe does really good and what to kind of stay away from and kind of like things like that. And then we'll do another podcast later on this week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, talking about the removal spells and the things to kind of watch out for on the offensive and defensive end. That way you don't lose a bunch of creatures or cast a spell into something that's terrible for you and things like that. So let's talk about our top 5 first, right? Now, before we get into that, I do want to say, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/72DPI online. Get subscribed, leave us a comment, tell us what you think. If you're a Magic player, what's your favorite cards? If you're not a Magic player, you can ask questions like, what is this trickery that you guys are doing? What is going on here? Anyway, all right, so let's get into our top 5. Eli, what is your number 5? Soul of what? Rapids? Talking rapids. Like water, like rapids. And what is Soul of Rapids? How much does that cost?
3 of anything and 2 blue.
Yep, very good. And what's its power and toughness?
3/2.
It's a 3/2, huh? And do you know what abilities it has?
Flying.
Talking to your mic.
Flying.
And do you know what that other word is? No, we haven't played with
Haste.
that. That's not haste. Close, very close. We have not played with this yet. That's called hexproof. So, excuse me, flying and hexproof. So that means that opponents can't target it with spells or abilities. So, like, if you got him out on the battlefield and someone wants to destroy target creature, they can't pick him because he's hexproof. You can't destroy him with instants or sorceries.
Well, if it was a creature.
Well, if it's a creature, then if you attack it or block it, then yeah, it can die. It's not indestructible. It's just hexproof, meaning that it can't be targeted with spells or abilities. So. Okay, that's your number 5. I like that guy. So he's blue. So you don't normally play blue, but why do you like him? What reason do you like him?
I just like the colors of him on the picture.
Oh, you like the artwork?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. As far as like gameplay goes, he's got flying, so that means he's pretty good in limited.
It has to be blocked.
By what? With reach or another creature with fly. Yep, very good. So he's a good card in limited. So like if we played blue in our pre-release, he might be a good card. He's a common, so we're going to get a couple of him. Now he costs 5, so you only want to put a couple, maybe 1 or 2 in your deck because at 5 it's that's a lot.
You don't want like 10 of them.
Well, right, maybe 1. 1 would be a good number. Okay. That's cool.
Now you're first.
Now my number 5. Now this is let's see here. This is tricky because this Griffin, let's see here, Repleasant Griffin is a 2/2 flyer. It's white and blue and colorless. The problem with I want to say this guy's going to be good in standard, because white and blue are good control cards in standard and in constructed format. But in limited, there is no tribe that's blue and white. So I don't know where he fits necessarily. Now, if you have like a decent number of creatures and you want to splash white for like a instants and sorceries and things like that, then by all means go for it. White is a pretty good support card as far as like getting creature like big blocking creatures. It's got a good set of flying creatures in there. So this definitely goes against the grain of the limited formats, but I think this is going to be a good card and sealed only because it's a 2/2. Once you have Ascend, it gets bigger every time it attacks. You get to put a +1/+1 counter every time it attacks. And Ascend basically says once you have 10 permanents and you cast an Ascend card, now you have the City's Blessing, and then every time he attacks, he gets bigger. So if you can somehow turn on Ascend on maybe turn 4 or turn 5 and start attacking, he's going to get bigger over time. But again, it's one of those long game things. So in which is controlled with a controlled like deck like blue white, that's definitely what you're looking for. All right, what's your number 4 card? Where's that on there? Raging Regisar. How much does he cost?
2 of anything, and 1 red, and 1 green.
Very good. And what's his power and toughness?
4/4.
4/4. Do you know what he does? So I'll read the first part. Whenever Raging Renastar,
attacks.
Talking to your mic. Attacks. Yep.
It deals 1 damage to target creature or player.
Very good. Make sure you're talking into your mic. So when it attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. It's pretty good. I mean, 4/4 for 4 mana, that's a pretty strong creature. And then if you're in green and red, you might have the Enrage ability on a couple other creatures that you control, so you might be able to trigger your own Enrage, it's pretty fantastic, right? Or you can just ping down your opponent for 1, dealing him 5 damage. My number 4, I think, is the same as your number 3. This is another, I think, going to be a really good limited card. So let's talk about that one together. Pterodon. Do we even save it?
Is this your 3?
No, this is my number 4. Nope, that's not it. Wah, wah, wah. That's not it. Oh, God. Oh, God. There it is. Suncrest Pterodon. So this is my number 4, your number 3. What's his power? He costs 5 mana, 1 white and 4 generic. He's a common. What's his power and toughness?
2/5.
Oh man, you must be sleepy. And what kind of ability does he have?
Flying.
He's got flying. He's also got something else. He's got vigilance as long as you control another dinosaur. Do you remember what vigilance means?
No.
Vigilance means when you attack, you don't have to tap him. So that works really well.
So can you attack it again?
You can attack again, but you can block, right? Because if you attack with a creature, you have to tap him. And he doesn't tap until your next turn, so that means once the creature's tapped, you can't block. So since he's a 2/5, he's got that 5 toughness, he can block really well. And he's got flying, so he can block evasion creatures really well. So that means you could deal the 2 damage to your opponent by attacking, and you can block with him the next turn around. Mm-hmm. So that's really good. The 5 mana 2/5, it's kind of rough, but the positive thing is you can deal damage unless they have a blocker, and then you also got a pretty decent guy on the backside to block. So, all right, so that was my number 4 and your number 3. My number 3 is this is a creature that is, let's see here. This is a creature that I think, again, kind of going back to limited. Constructed is going to be my next two, but my number 3 is another common sun-collared Raptor. This is a 2-drop, a 1/2 for 1 red and 1 generic with trample. Now, one of the things he's also his other ability. He's got another ability. Before I get into that, one of the big things with limited and like sealed is you want to be able to have something to do in the late game, right? You have all these creatures on the battlefield and you don't have anything to do with them. You have all this mana, and if your hand is empty, you don't have anything to do with, you don't have any way of using that mana, so it's getting wasted. This is what they refer to as a mana sink. So if the way is clear, you can dump a bunch of mana into this, and he deals a ton of damage. So he's got trample, which is fantastic. He's got an ability that's 2 of anything, 1 red, and he gets +3/+0 until end of turn. So he becomes a 4/2 until end of turn. Now you can pay this cost as many times as you want. So he can be a 4/2. He can be a 7/2. He can pay 9, and he can be a 10/2. So that's pretty good. So you can just dump a whole bunch of mana into this thing, and boom. The other cool thing about this is you don't have to activate this until after he's been blocked. So if let's say you have 3 open mana and you attack with this, you can kind of try to convince portray that you're going to attack or going to pump him up. So your guy is like, your opponent's like, I'm going to block him, and you could use a removal spell to remove his creature. Therefore, you're clearing the way next turn. So I think there's a lot of really cool interactions that this guy's going to provide dinosaur decks or even red decks. This doesn't have to be in a dinosaur deck. Like if you're playing pirates, this guy fits right in, right? Because he doesn't have anything that's, quote unquote, has to be dinosaur or anything like that. He's a great sink in mana for, at the end of the game. So that is Sun-Collared Raptor. My number, 3? Yeah, number 2. 1, 5, 4, 3. Yeah, my number 3. What is your number 2, Eli? It is Spire Winder. Talking to your mic.
Spider Winder. Spire Winder.
Yep. And that's a snake. And talking to your mic. How much does he cost?
He costs 3 of anything and 1 blue.
Yep. And what's his power and toughness?
2/3.
2/3. And what ability does he have?
Flying.
Yep, he's got flying. And then Ascend. We just talked about Ascend. When you have 10 permanents in play, he does something else, right? So see how it says Ascend right there? So Spire Winder gets +1/+1 as long as you have City's Blessing. So if you have 10 permanents and you cast him, he gets +1/+1. So it becomes a 3/4. That's not too bad. Not too bad at all. It's a common. It's a flyer for 4 mana. That's not bad. Right? And he possibly could get bigger. What do you like about him?
Because I like snakes.
You like the snakes? And he's a flying snake, too. You can't go wrong there, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. My number 2 is Wayward Swordtooth. This is a dinosaur. He's 3 mana, 1 green, 2 generic. He's a 5/5. That's pretty good. 3 mana, you get a 5/5. But there's more. There's a drawback. He has Ascend. So we'll talk about that in a second. But he has a static ability that says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. So instead of playing one land a turn, you can now play two lands a turn. So that means this guy comes down on turn 3 or turn 2 if you're quick enough. So if he comes down on turn 3, you can play an extra land. So that means you'll have 4 lands. And then on your 4th turn, if you've got the lands in your hand, you'll be at 6 lands on turn 4. That's pretty good. Saying that's saying that you have all the lands in your hand.
You have to pay it.
You have to pay 3 to play him. Now his Ascend is a negative ability. He actually cannot attack or block until you have City's Blessing. So until you have 10 permanents, which he helps you get to, you can't attack or block with him. So, but one of the things, this is what I think in standard, this is one of the things that dinosaur decks really struggled with, is getting a big creature on the a meaningful creature on the battlefield, and being able to ramp into other things, right? So this is a three drop that lets you play additional lands, ramping you into bigger, better things, and hopefully eventually getting your ascend cost all the way up. Now the next problem with the dinosaur deck is they don't have many ascend cards. So ascend only triggers when you cast an ascend card. So you can't play this card and then not have any other ascend creatures or ascend cards, because then you'll never get the city's blessing. So but being able to play additional land is well worth it. So all right. Let's see here. You're on your number 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see here. There he is. So your number 1 is Gulta Primal Hunger, and how much does he cost?
10 of anything and 2 green.
Very good. And what's his power and toughness?
12.
Yep, he's got trample, and he's got a cost reduction ability that basically says he costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. So we just talked about my Swordtooth guy, right? He's a 5/5. Yep. Play him on turn 3. So if you have 3 mana, right? You have 3 permanents in play, and you drop him, right? So that's your 4th permanent, and he lets you play another land, so that's your 5th permanent. So you've got 5 lands in play, plus this guy, he's 5 power. So he reduces the cost of your Primal Hunger guy by 5. So now he only costs 7. So you could possibly drop if you've got the land, if you have the 3 additional land to drop 1 during the 3rd turn and 2 during your 4th turn, you could possibly play this Primal Hunger on turn 4. A 12/12 with trample on turn 4. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good. I mean, that's a magical Christmas land, and he's a rare, and the Primal Hunger guy is a rare. So that's magical Christmas land right there. But that's not to say it can't be done, right?
Got 1 more left. Yep. You're going with all 5 right there.
I've got 2 rares. I got these 2 are rares, and then the other guys were uncommons. The Griffin was uncommon. All right, so my number 1 I think he's gonna see play in standard. If a dinosaur deck ever comes to fruition, this is gonna be a huge mainstay and be able to protect this guy. 5 mana for a 5/5. So he costs 3 of anything, 2 white. He's got Enrage, and whenever he is dealt damage, exile target creature an opponent controls until Trapjaw Tyrant leaves the battlefield. This is going to be a huge, in our deck at least, the one that we are building, this one actually right here. This one, boom. This one right here. He's going to be a huge partner in that deck. No, probably not so much Primal Hunger. We might try to fit him. I don't know. I still like the Carnage Tyrant, but the thing is with your Gulta Primal Hunger guy, the 12/12, being able to cast him as early as turn 4 seems pretty sweet. Turn 4. But this Trapjaw, being able to remove big guys, being able to remove the gods like the spider or the Scarab God and Hazaret and those hard to deal with creatures, even if you could remove them for a turn and open up the floodgates for a real good attack, you're talking 10, 15 damage, you might be able to close the game out. So I'm really excited for that. All right, let's talk real quick, because it's almost time to go to bed for someone in this podcast.
Nope, not me.
Nope, not you. Oh, it's time for me to go to bed? Oh, sweet. I would love to go to bed. All right, so we have 4 tribes. We have vampires, we have merfolk, we have dinosaurs, and we have pirates. Which ones do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about first?
Dinosaurs.
You want to talk about dinosaurs? Okay, so the way I see it, dinosaurs are there's three main color combinations for the dinosaurs. There's green white, which is going to be like your mid range deck. There are quite a few flyers in white. There's none in green, but there's quite a few flyers in white. And then your enrage ability only has a couple. So it's going to be more of a mid-range play creatures. You're going to play more not like off-tribal creatures and spells and things like that. But your heavy hitters are going to be flyers. The second deck is going to be your white-red aggro deck. These are the ones that are going to be really fast. I believe there's a white-red dinosaur that's a 3/3 that has to attack each turn. So playing a 3/3 on turn 2 and then attacking from there on out is extremely popular. And then the other thing that the red has going for it is it's got a bunch of enraged cards as well as enrage abilities. So there are, it looks like, 6 different spells that will trigger enrage. Some of them not as good as others. I believe there's a 4 damage target creature, but still it can trigger enrage. And then it looks like enrage has red has 3 enrage spells. So you're going to be able to really trigger that on your enraged creatures. The third one is green-red, a green-red enrage rage like centric deck, because all the enraged cards are in those 2 colors. White's got 1 at Mythic Rare, but you're hardly ever going to see that. And there's 1 in Uncommon, but the rest of them, the rest of the lot are in those green-red colors. So that's dinosaurs. Ramp spells are mostly found in the 2, 3, and 4 converted mana cost, all in green. So that's something to be aware of. So if you're playing against a green dinosaur deck, you know that they're going to try and ramp into bigger things. So make sure you save your destroy this creature spells for something good, and your deal 2 damage, deal 3 damage, deal 4 damage to 3, 4. Try to match up your damage to their toughness. Don't waste any damage there. All right, so those are dinosaurs. Merfolk is pretty straightforward because it's blue green. It's pretty straightforward. I feel like it's going to be more of a mid range deck combo control with a control light. They're going to have some counter spells. They've got a lot of bounce, a lot of draw cards. There's a underlying theme of unblockable creatures and hexproof. Remember we talked about hexproof. But unblockable creatures, meaning that you won't be able to block them when they go to combat. And it's only 1 and 2 points of damage here or there, but the thing that they're hoping for is being able to draw lots of cards, build their smaller creatures up with their enter the battlefield effects with like +1/+1 counters and things like that. So that's Merfolk. Then we have vampires, which are black-white. Now the vampires and the pirates, they have all the tribes have access to ascend. The Merfolk cards and the dinosaur cards only have 5 ascend cards each, and that includes non-tribal cards that they're in those colors. But they only have access to 5 tribal ascend cards each, whereas vampires have access to 9. And that's second to pirates, which we'll get here to in a second. So they might have more of a board presence in vampires, especially with like 1/1 tokens. They have some flyers, mostly in black, which I think there's only 1 actual vampire that's in black. That's a flyer. There's 1 white one, but the rest of them can be swapped out between different decks. Like I said, the vampires are going to go wide. Their biggest thing is getting as many vampires and tokens onto the battlefield as humanly possible, and really trying to capitalize on that ascend ability. The last tribe, pirates, they're in red, green, and blue. They have access to 13 ascend cards. So really look for them to have a huge board presence. And trying to get as many tokens and many creatures, permanents onto the battlefield. They don't draw quite as many cards as the Merfolk deck does, but they're going to be refilling their hand constantly and hoping to get to pick up some permanents. The other thing that they have going for them is combat damage and raid. So raid is something happens when you cast a spell if you've attacked this turn. So look for them to be doing silly, combat tricks and things like that, and leaving their mana up and making a dumb attack or whatever. So don't be afraid to block, things like that. They've got three types of decks. They've got green black aggro, which kind of like on the dinosaur side, they've got a ton of flyers, a ton of creatures that are going to be, hitting the battlefield early and attacking quickly. There's a red-black pirate that pumps their attacking pirates +2/+0 until end of turn, so that's something that's you want to watch out for. It's a stagnant ability, so you'll see it coming, but it's still 2 damage on every creature is still huge. The second deck for the pirates is a blue-black control shell. This is going to give them access to discarding cards out of your hand. I don't think you'll run into that a lot in your sealed events. In your two-headed giant, there seems to be a couple different decks or a couple different ways that comes up. Usually, one player is playing all the creatures and all the heavy hitting permanents and things, and then the other player is playing the counter spells, the control scheme. So in two-headed giant, you'll see this blue-black control deck come up more often than not. In your one-on-one matches, probably not, because sealed and limited is one on the battlefield, so there's really not a lot of place for a full-fledged control deck. And then the last one is kind of like the Merfolk deck, the red-blue unblockable deck. This is going to have a bunch of enter the battlefield effects, a bunch of raid triggers and things like that. It's going to be a little bit faster than your control deck, but a little bit slower than your aggro deck. So just be on the lookout for that. Flyers are very relevant in the blue. There's 4 blue flyers and 3 black flyers in this combination. So if someone is in fact playing the blue-black deck, they're going to have access to a ton of flyers. So make sure you are prepared for that. That's actually one of the weaknesses of the dinosaur deck, because all the dinosaurs, they only have access to 4 flyers, 1 red and 3 white, and I think one of those whites is a mythic rare. So just be cautious of that. So that's a little bit of a breakdown of the 4 tribes that are in the new set. Now keep in mind, that's just a breakdown of the rivals of Ixalan, because if you're in sealed, you'll be opening 2 packs of Ixalan itself, and 4 packs of rivals. Or if you're in limited, you're playing, or draft, you're playing 2 of rival. You're playing rivals, and then regular Ixalan. So just know that those other spells are in there, and triggers and things like that. So that's Rivals of Ixalan. You have anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
Yep.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys watching. Like I said at the top of the show, make sure you head over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/72DPI online. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you thought about the episode. Make sure you give us a big fat what?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. We appreciate it. Get subscribed. Share our videos. Tell everybody about the show. We have fun doing it. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please don't give us a thumbs down.
Please don't give us a thumbs down. Next week we'll talk about our pre-release experience, because that's coming up on Saturday or Sunday. Then the Monday after, we've got some packs to open up, thanks to my brother John for Christmas. He got me 6 packs of Hour of Devastation. So maybe we'll crack open some what are they called, masterpieces. So some cool money cards.
And some good rares.
Some good rares too, hopefully.
Because sometimes we got bad rares.
Sometimes we do open bad, and that's what you do. That's what happens when you open a pack. Sometimes you get good things, sometimes you get bad. It's called the lottery. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Say bye.
Goodbye.
Good boy. Okay, Dan. Night, everybody.